Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're drinking bourbon. All right, Ben, let's be honest. You've had this bourbon, I've had this bourbon. They know what the bourbon is. They've seen the thumbnail.
Yes.
It's a great bourbon.
Let's bring it out.
We just wanted to open up the new bottle. And
this is, bam, Four Roses Small Batch Select. So,
is this the one that you won the opportunity to purchase in a lottery recently?
No.
No.
Which is funny if you live around here.
Yeah.
So yes, I have had this before, but only twice.
Oh, that's true.
I had this once recently. I bought a mini bottle of it before I bought this bottle, because I hadn't had it in a long time. And actually, the only other time I'd had it is in our Four Roses flight video, which is one of our early ones. Yeah, probably like maybe first 10 videos or whatever. And it was the last out of all four of them, and I really liked it. But you know, you have it with a bunch of other bourbons, and then you go a year, and I just hadn't really seen it around for a while, and I picked up one of those mini bottles just to try it again and absolutely loved it. So I went out and grabbed a full-size bottle. So, oof.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to put in a volcano explosion in post.
I should, yeah. I mean,
I think the viewers expect that now.
Yeah, I mean, I've thrown that in a few of them. Kind of like, you know, selectively pick and choose which videos just to keep people on their toes if they're actually watching or not, you know?
So, for anybody who maybe has not had this or even heard of it, we should probably explain.
Or not fully familiar with Four Roses.
Yeah. So, this is their small batch select. Now, Four Roses, unlike I think any other distillery that I know of, they have
two mash bills.
Two mash bills.
Which other places have multiple mash bills, but they have.
But then they have five different yeast strains. And then if you multiply 5 times 2, you get
12.
No, it's 10.
10.
So, amongst they only have 4 bourbons and then some like limited release special ones.
Yep.
They have all these different mash bills and
single barrels and store picks and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so they mix. And so this particular one, the small batch select, has 6 of those various recipes.
Yep. So it's a blend of 6 to 7 year bourbons. They said they use 3 of the proprietary mash bills and both yeast, or 3 of the yeast strains, both of the mash bills.
Correct.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's kind of complicated. Every time we talk about Four Roses, we stumble on that.
It is. It's kind of a struggle. It's hard to understand. But my guess is they're going to be doing more in the future. Like they're building for the future. I think I said that last time.
Yeah. So this is also high rye. I think they're in the 30s when it comes 30% rye, which is not for everybody.
And I tend not to be a high rye. I don't really care. I don't love rye whiskey. Don't really love high rye bourbons sometimes, but I really do love Four Roses. Mm-hmm. And this last year was my number 2 bourbon. I did a top 20 and this was number 2.
All right, let's get into it. The nose is, I mean, it's got that rye, but it's just wrapped in sweetness and oak.
Sweetness and oak, cherry.
Yeah.
The age really comes across. It's nice and mature, but not overdone.
I was gonna say for 6 to 7 years, this really comes across as more aged than that even. And that's a great sweet spot for bourbon, I think.
I think so.
I think that 6 to 8 range is really good.
Yep.
But I mean, this really comes off as something that's definitely a little older than that.
104 proof. So it's not like it's super watered down and like you're gonna lose the flavor, get it buried.
Non-chill filtered.
Yep.
All right, I'm going in for it here.
All right, here goes. It's almost unfair.
It's so good.
It is so good.
It really is good. It's got a really nice sharpness to it, but a balanced sharpness.
But it doesn't get out of control.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it gives you that nice bite that you want. Mm-hmm. And it's not just proof, it's flavor as well. It's just a nice, the main thing about this bourbon that I would say is just balance.
Balance and nice and controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so good at what it does. The rye spice in this, considering how high rye it is, it doesn't come across as like a punch in the face rye that some of them do, where it's almost all rye. Like this one really brings out the oak in the age, but it also brings out all the like the vanilla and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I feel like you get that rye spice, but you get that really kind of candy sweetness too.
You do, you get a lot of sweetness, the barrel char, toffee. There's so many flavors. Like there's a little bit of like a citrusy kind of note, which is weird how something that goes one direction can like all of a sudden give you a totally different note.
Yeah. Yeah, like the finish on this is like, I feel like I'm eating candy, like not like sweet tarts type candy, but like, or it's almost like when I say baking spices, sometimes that can mean a couple different things. Sometimes it's clove or whatever. Yep. But this is almost like it's got that rye spice to it. And it's got a little bit of that clove too that kind of comes along with the high rye bourbon, or rye whiskey for that matter. Yeah. But it's almost like baking cookies, like the brown sugar and the vanilla extract. That's the way it smells. Yeah, and just it just has all of that going on. I know it's kind of rambly there, but
that's okay. There's just so many different flavors. It's hard to pick any one thing out.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And then they're all just balanced and kind of wrapped up perfectly. I would say at this proof at 104, I mean, I don't know if 104 is like a beginner's proof. That's a little bit more than very big. But I would say for somebody who's maybe gotten into bourbon but isn't so into high rye bourbons, this would be a good one to, like, here's a high rye bourbon that you might really, really like. If they're already used to that 100 proof range.
So I think this is, if someone were to come to me who has tried a bunch of different bourbons, and they said, what does a good bourbon taste like? I think I have two answers. And it's my number one and my number two. And this one, and then the George T. Stagg. These are what, like, the pinnacle of at least what I've had. What's available that I can buy. Yeah, and they're in two very different directions. Now, obviously, totally. George T. Stagg. Yep, totally.
You can recommend that to somebody all day long, whether or not they can find it. But this, I mean, this one shows up in kind of waves. At least around here, it does. Like, you don't see it for 6 months, and then all of a sudden you'll see it for a few months. In a lot of different places. Runs about $60, and worth every penny. Yeah, this is one that really punches above its weight. I mean, it drinks like a premium bourbon. There's something so much about this. It's almost like I'm getting a little something different on every sip. Yep, flavors kind of like they come and go. Yeah, but again, it's balanced. Like, you take a sip here and you get all that nice oak spice and a little bit of rye. And then you take this sip and you get all those nice baking spices and so what sweetness. I found is when you have a bourbon that's a little bit higher proof, that's when you see the different flavors. Because that's when you kind of like, you'll get just the sweetness or just the spice or just... When it's watered down, you'll get... Yeah, you may just get a flavor and it's pretty consistent. So it seems like over 100 proof is when you really start to see the complexity and the interest. Yeah, for sure. Kick it up a notch. So if you're watching this and you're new to bourbon and you're into that lower proof range, that's great. There's still a lot of great bourbons out there. And the other thing is it's like you got to kind of acclimate yourself to that. Because I think if you're brand new and you go above 100 proof, you just get alcohol and you really might miss out on all the complexities that this has to offer. Absolutely. So yeah, it's a good thing to work your way up to that point. Yeah, this, like you said, this drinks like a premium bourbon. There's something, the oak note that I'm getting on this. Now, side note, Greg and I have never been fortunate enough to go to a distillery. At least I haven't. Have you been to a... No, I've not. So I've never been in an actual rick house before. Oh, okay. But the kind of oak note I'm getting on this, it makes me think of like, I bet you this is what a rick house smells like. I can see what you're saying. Yeah. I've seen pictures of the various rick houses. Yeah. And you just want to walk through the little, in between all the racks. Yeah. And people talk about a specific smell inside there and like the experience of tasting a bourbon in a rick house. Now, I could be totally wrong on this, but that's what I think of. Like, I bet you this is exactly what a rick house smells like. So now that I've had a number of sips, on the late finish, I do get a distinct note, a bourbon note.
And I'm reluctant to mention it because I think this is a very off-putting note to some people. And I don't actually like that flavor, but in balance, it's okay. And I would say it's still in balance, and that's kind of a black licorice almost.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I get a black licorice note on a lot of high rye stuff or rye whiskey.
I think that's where it comes from.
And I hate black licorice.
Yeah, agreed.
But it's one of those things where, yeah, this doesn't taste like black licorice. Like, I hate bananas, but there are certain bourbons that are known for their banana note. Those are some of my favorite bourbons.
Yeah.
So sometimes the flavors that maybe you really don't like in their natural setting, when they come across, you know, because I could see the licorice note for sure. But yeah, this just has kind of everything going for it.
It does.
It really does. This is one of those ones that, yeah, it's not allocated in most stores.
It's hard to find in most stores.
It can be hard to find, but I think, like I said, around here, when it shows up, it's available for a while. You have a chance to get one. Highly recommend.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely a step in a different direction from your standard.
It's not just higher proof.
Right. But I mean, like, say you take a rare breed or a prohibition style. Like, this is in a completely different category. And I feel like those are in their own categories of what I would consider. Like, I consider those ones, they drink like premium bourbons as well.
Yep.
For sure. And this is, you know, on that same level. It's a little lower proof than both of those, but I think it drinks just as, it has just as much strength that it brings in flavor.
Yeah.
But just in a completely different direction. So it's a great one to explore. All right, well, this has been Four Roses Small Batch Select on the Bourbon Note. And Ben.
I'm Greg. Cheers.